This week on the Inside Athletic Training Podcast, we welcome in Tyler Brooks, Major League Assistant Athletic Trainer of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Enjoy the show. All right, Tyler, welcome to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. Excited to have you on for the first time and hear about yourself and your career and what you're doing in Pittsburgh with the Pirates. You're currently entering your first season as a Major League Assistant Athletic Trainer in Pittsburgh. We'll get into your current role, your past experiences here in a bit, but to get started today, let's share some background with our listeners. What originally drew you to athletic training and sports medicine?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Just happy to be on here. Really excited. Been a long-time listener of the program. Really cool to
appreciate that.
Listen and learn from everybody that has been on here and just glean from their experiences. So it's been really cool. I'm excited to be on here. But getting started on my own beginnings, what drew me into athletic training and sports medicine, I would say kind of a series of events. You know, it's your usual, had my own injuries in high school, had those types of experiences. The one that stood out to me was playing goalie in soccer. I was sliding out on a breakaway and the player slid into me, got cleated right in the shin, just above the shin guard, and, hurt, didn't feel good. But the next day, just like really ballooned up, and it was, okay, this is strange, this is weird, but still wasn't like terribly concerned. I was going to continue to play and, everything. But day two, it really ballooned up even more. And I had that like pitting edema where I could take the ball and like move it around, almost like I had a water balloon under my shin. And I'm showing my friends and, just thinking that it's a funny party trick that I can move all this stuff around on my shin. And get my teacher that ends up seeing it, and he stops me. He's like, you should go see somebody about this. Come to learn what that was and what was going on. Like, he sparked like a aha, like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, the body is really cool. This is a lot of ways where something that seems very benign could actually be something pretty serious. And, to be a part of that is a really cool thing. So tried to think of ways that I could align myself to stay in like the field of medicine and sports and combine all of the things that I was interested in at the time. And, athletic training and physical therapy felt like some pretty interesting ways to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Similar story, like you've heard a number of times on the show, is myself included. You end up in the training room after playing sports and something kind of clicks where, this is a way to stay in sports. Obviously, the playing career ends for all of us sooner than later. But it's cool to hear you echo those same experiences as many of our guests here. Well, Tyler, talk about your education and also where you're from originally. Did you know what you want to do when you started school, when you got to college? Were you an athletic training major? And how did those educational experience kind of shape you into knowing like, hey, I want to do this for a profession?
Yeah, good question. I was born and raised in a small town in central Pennsylvania. It's called Jonestown, not Johnstown, out towards Pittsburgh, but kind of smack dab around like Hershey, Harrisburg. So pretty small school and everything. And as I mentioned, there was some of that early experience of my own injuries, going through like health classes and some basic entry level anatomy in high school. Kind of triggered I could see myself doing something in this realm. I started shadowing at some PT clinics in the area, and I thought physical therapy would probably be the way that I would go. But I had a little bit of doubt as I was visiting my colleges. Messiah College in central Pennsylvania, it's Mechanicsburg area, really stood out to me as like a really interesting school. I liked the environment. I liked the smaller town feel, kind of being familiar to what I was used to. But they didn't have a actual like physical therapy program. They just had pre-PT. So I thought, okay, I could do pre-PT and be lined up for that. But at the same time, like I want to come out with a degree that like I could work in case,
Yeah.
anything happened like that. So I learned about athletic training and thought that that could be an interesting way to kind of bridge the gap, come in with some actual like working knowledge and like hands-on clinical experience
Yeah.
going into a PT program. So I kind of lined it up to be like set up to go into a PT. But the more that I just started going through the athletic training programs, it just made me realize how much more interesting and exciting the athletic training room was compared to a PT clinic, and realizing like, I don't know, maybe PT just isn't right for me.
Yeah, and when you going through school, were there certain sports you aligned more closely with? Was there did you have a path in mind that maybe you diverged from at the beginning when you were in school, or were you always under the impression that professional baseball was going to be what was best for you?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, professional baseball was the furthest thing from my mind.
Okay.
It felt like one of those things that, I liked baseball. I played baseball in high school.
Yeah.
I wasn't very good, but, I did my thing.
Mm-hmm.
As I alluded to, I played soccer, and that was a little bit more of what I was drawn to, what I was a little more passionate about. And a lot of winter sports were things that like really intrigued me. So I always go back and I look at like going through school. I always thought that I would end up graduating, I would move out west, or I would move up to like Canada or something, like just get me in all the snow.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll find a job in soccer. I'll find a job in, some type of like winter sport type of, um, training academies or something like that, development centers. And then in my senior seminar class, my professor, Dr. Lewis, who was also our program director, came to our senior sem class. There was a class of 9 of us, and he mentioned that there was an opportunity with the Christian Sports Medicine Alliance that was contracting some people to have a paid internship with the Red Sox in the Dominican. So that's where I just like kind of sat back and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, like geographically, it's not where I want to be. It may not be the sport that I even anticipated, but like, let's be real. Like I also didn't see myself working in women's lacrosse as one of my placements for my teams as I'm going through my academic curriculum.
Yeah.
And I ended up enjoying the heck out of that too. So it's like what you think that you want doesn't always mean that it's the best thing for you. So I sat back and I thought about it, and you know what, like when else am I going to get an opportunity to work with a professional sports team in a foreign country? Like just felt like too much to pass up. So put my name in the ring, asked to be included in the pool of applicants, was fortunate enough to be selected. And yeah, I mean, just had the opportunity to just kind of like go for it and just grip it and rip it. And I went down there and, just live life.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think a lot of people are, and we'll get into your time in the DR and why maybe some people are hesitant and your experiences down there, which I think will be super interesting for the younger professionals out there. So you've broken with the Red Sox, spent some time in the DR. Was the idea of actually breaking into the game overwhelming for you at the time, or was it felt kind of reasonably doable because of the opportunities through school? I know a lot of people are applying for internships and feel like working in sports is somewhat unattainable. Talk about your experience of actually landing that job and kind of the feeling of, hey, I work for the Red Sox now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like I mentioned, is just it was so far out of my mind because you think that like professional baseball is like MLB. I knew that like some minor league teams existed, but it was never on my mind that like minor league baseball runs as deep as it actually does.
Sure.
So it definitely felt like something that would be out of the possibility, and I wouldn't have even thought to like just blindly apply for that job. So as it gets presented in that context in our senior sem class, it was like, okay, like why not? Like if it's being presented to us, it's clearly that like they think that we're ready for it. We could jump in there and handle it.
Yeah.
So, as I said, like getting selected and, ultimately like getting the position, knowing that I had to wait until I was graduated, there was a lot of time to like think and reflect. And I even remember I got a call from the minor league coordinator at the time. His name was Mauricio Elizondo. Um, he calls me and he's, yeah, like, we'll bring you down and we'll get you into spring training in February and we'll get you all set up and get you onboarded. And I like just thanked him, except, I was like, okay, this is good. And I hung up and I immediately called my professor and I was like, Dr. Lewis, like, I don't think he knows that I'm still in school. I had that like panic moment. I was like, oh shoot, like, am I about to lose this job because I can't afford the spring training? And he goes, no, you're fine. Like, we're okay. Just call him back and explain. And I'm like, okay. So obviously he understood and he was more than happy, but it was just that funny, like the pressure got to me like right then and there. It was like, oh shoot, like, am I about to blow this shot before I even get a chance to start it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Mauricio's a great guy. He's, I believe, with Austin FC now, in soccer, longtime PBATS member. So cool to hear that name there. But let's get into that kind of experience in the Dominican. We've had seminars and speakers talk to a lot of students through PBATS about the importance of maybe getting that experience in the DR, what international baseball is like, learning Spanish, learning how to drive there, which a lot of people have mentioned is difficult, and just different experiences. So you get there, what's it like? Culture shock. You're from Pennsylvania. Like, what was going through your mind when you show up day one?
I mean, I definitely almost got smacked in the mouth immediately of like the cultural hit.
Yeah.
Not a physical smack to the mouth, but like that proverbial, just like, holy cow, this is real. As I mentioned, I had to wait until I graduated. So I graduated May 16th and I was on a flight down to the DR on May 18th. So, I mean, it was super quick turnaround. Everything was just moving a mile a minute. I'm scrambling to unpack my apartment at Messiah, get back home, repack what I'm going to need for the next 4 or 5 months so that I could live abroad in another country that I've never been to. So that was like wild. My small town growing up, obviously not a ton of Spanish influence, like in fact, like almost zero. We're like German descendants. So like there's no Spanish speaking in our bloodline. But interestingly enough, like me, my older sister and my younger brother all are fluent in Spanish just through different like experiences and things that have like taken us through life. And it's like just kind of funny because there's no reason that we should speak Spanish. But to go back to that original moment, in school, in college, I was familiar with it. I thought I was pretty good at Spanish, but I did not have like the conversational background to it. When the time came, I was like, I'm confident that I'll figure it out. It'll be rusty. It'll be an adjustment, but we'll get there. And I just remember the very first moment getting off the plane, I'm going through customs and I'm talking to the security agents and they're like throwing a mile a minute, all these words at me. And I'm just like that shell shocked, like, oh shoot, like I don't know this like I thought I did. But collected myself and it's just, whatever, this is going to get better. It'll get better, and just like believe in it and just try to stay confident as much as possible. Throughout the year. And it was just kind of like, all right, like keep committing to figuring it out along the way, let the players kind of guide me through and commit that like, it's not going to be perfect, but that's all part of it. Their English isn't perfect. My Spanish isn't perfect. Between the middle, we'll meet in the middle somewhere and we'll find a way to get the job done.
And from the athletic training, like clinician perspective, not including everything you have going on as like a young kid in the middle of somewhere he's never been, trying to figure that out. Did you have good guidance there from like, whether it's talking to Mauricio or someone else who was there? Were you kind of on an island to figure it out by yourself, like you are at many low affiliates in the US? Like what's day one in the training room there? Like, are you figuring out yourself or was someone there to kind of hold your hand for a bit?
Yeah, I was hired on as the assistant down there.
Okay.
Back in that time, sad that I can already say back in my day, but back in my day, having a full-time certified ATC was not quite as like hard set guaranteed. You're going to find it at every single organization with every single team down in the DR.
Yeah.
So the way that the Red Sox were doing it was they had a Venezuelan trained, well educated, really awesome guy, Guillermo Hinojosa. He was the head, and I was the assistant. And I just provided that level of, okay, we have a certified athletic trainer on staff.
Okay.
So I learned under Guillermo, had him kind of show me a lot of things, get me caught up to speed on, what a Boston Red Sox arm care program looks like and how to do some of those basic entry level things. Obviously, Mauricio was always a phone call away, and he was calling me pretty often. Sometimes I was calling him in a panic of like, I don't know what to do here, but I definitely had him as a sounding board and kind of guiding me and putting me through the paces to make sure that I'm developing in that first year. He set me up with some projects of, send him research papers or work on certain projects of like education to make sure that I'm, moving in the right direction and, it's approving of the trajectory there. So I did have plenty of support, plenty of guidance. I wasn't on the proverbial island, so to speak, but
sure,
there was also plenty of time to just sit there and, do the work and just be independent and figure it out.
Yeah. And do you think you'd be in the same place in your career without that experience? I know, again, said this a number of times, but a lot of hesitation from younger athletic trainers who are so eager to break into like, hey, I want to be at high A or double A. I want to get places fast within affiliates in the U.S. And it's also more comfortable here for most people. Would you be where you are without that experience in the DR? And, would you recommend that young people take that leap?
I would absolutely say so. I definitely don't think that I would be where I am today without that early on experience.
Mm-hmm.
For the reasons that I alluded to, where like I didn't even think that it was possible. Like it's a very attainable way to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
But the patience and the lessons that you learn down there are incredibly valuable. Learning how to, I'll always reference kind of like doing less with more.
Yeah.
I didn't have the top of the line equipment at the time. I didn't have, nice matching dumbbell sets. It was just kind of, we had some sandbags or whatever. We would have, a mismatched weight. We were filling water bottles with water and just trying to like use that as like, there was a lot of just kind of like figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have all of the fancy rehab equipment and the modalities, but what I did learn was, the emphasis on listening, watching, learning and explaining, like just really being hands-on, using my hands as the instruments that they are and like just trusting that, I have the skill set there and just continue to develop it and work on it. So I think that if I had gone straight into a US based affiliate or, into a collegiate setting or something where like you have a lot of more of those tools at your disposal, I think it can be easy early on to fall back into like what you're comfortable with.
Sure.
And it kind of forces you to be a little bit, creative in those situations.
Yeah. And I do have to ask, I know I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but heard from Nevin Dominguez with the Royals, who gave a presentation on the DR. He always has some funny slides about like driving there. What is it about driving the Dominican Republic that kind of leads people to have these crazy stories about their first experience?
I mean, that was probably one of the first like major culture shocks. Like as soon as you get out of the airport, it's like, holy cow, this is like lawless within reason. It's not like that.
Yeah, of course.
But people passing each other in the oncoming lane, you're flashing headlights to let people know instead of just like people relying on turn signals.
Yeah.
People honking their horns all the time. Like those are just some of those little ways where it's like, it's not what you're used to in the US. So that was a pretty early on, speed limits are more of a suggestion than a law. But I learned early on, it's like, if I drive like I do in the US, like I'm going to get nowhere. I'm going to get cut off. I'm going to not be able to pull out of an intersection. Like, you just got to be aggressive and like do it. So a lot of us always talk about it as driving like you're in Grand Theft Auto. It's just go for it. I'm going to do it, and like just be as reasonably aggressive as possible, and rely on the other people to use their brakes too.
Yeah, it's almost like a lesson in kind of life. Like, you got to be assertive. You got to go get it. It's pretty interesting when you frame it that way. Well, Tyler, I want to fast forward now to kind of talk about what you're doing now. So, first off, a huge congratulations to you. Your first year in the big leagues with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Take us back to the moment you found out, like players, like athletic trainers do get the call, like you're going up to the big leagues. Really amazing accomplishment. There's, very few of these jobs that exist, which is amazing, and kind of really testament to your hard work. What did it feel like? Talk about that moment when you learned you're moving up this year.
Yeah, the official call to be put on the full-time athletic training staff in the big leagues was obviously, incredibly impactful, and it's a moment that I'll definitely remember forever. I was lucky enough to actually be driving out to see my parents. They were down visiting us in Florida. That's awesome. My wife's in the car with me and my brother's in the back seat, and we're just kind of like, on speakerphone and listening to that. But the one that probably had the bigger impact. So last year I was the minor league athletic training coordinator. Yeah. I went up to Pittsburgh for our mid-season coordinator meetings. And as we were finishing up those coordinator meetings, I get called down into the office. I get a call from one of our assistant GMs, and he's like, "Hey, can you come down to the office? We had some things that we wanted to run by you." Okay, yeah, sure. Like, I'll be right there. And so I get sat down in like a back office, and I have TT in the room. I have the Steve Sanders, our AGM, and John Baker, who was one of our directors of performance. And so I'm already kind of like, okay, what's going on? And they sit me down and they're like, "Hey, I know you wanted to stay for a few days after these coordinator meetings, but we have another ask of, can you stay up in Pittsburgh for the rest of the year and work with us as an assistant? You'll continue to do your coordinator duties, but like, you'll be based out of Pittsburgh and you'll travel with the team, and, you'll just be an extension of the athletic training staff for the rest of the year." But I'll just never forget like that moment. It's like they're setting it all up with like, we know that it's going to be a big ask. We know that it's, going to be, a tough task, but, we believe in you, and we think. And so like, as that moment's there, I felt myself like vibrating in my chair. My chest was like my heart was about to jump out of my chest. Yeah. Holy cow, is this really about to happen? Are they really about to ask what I think they're about to ask? So that's probably the one where it's like, it felt the most like what a player would experience, where he's getting to the big leagues. He gets pulled into the manager's office and sat down. So that one was really cool.
No, that's awesome. And obviously going to be a new role, but somewhat familiar, as you mentioned, spending some of the year last year with the club full time. Now with your first full season upcoming in the big leagues, what are you most excited about? Is it, visiting new cities? Obviously, that's a perk. It's not your main goal for why you're doing what you're doing. Kind of the intensity of a full year, the opportunity to work alongside Luke and Joel and Todd and some of the best players in the world. Like, what are you most excited about as you move into spring training here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd say the intensity is probably the one that stands out the most. I'm sure a lot of people would echo this. It's not to say that winning doesn't matter in minor leagues, but it's not the primary emphasis.
Yeah, of course.
Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, it is mostly about development. Winning is always a perk, but at the end of the day, you're not going to say that it's a terrible year because you didn't win a lot of games.
Yeah.
In the big leagues, it's kind of the exact opposite. Like, you're really putting out all your heart and passion into winning every single game, every single night. So just being a part of that atmosphere where it's like every pitch, every out, every swing matters. And just being a part of that winning environment. Getting to be a part of some of the wins last year and just seeing that like incredible energy after a win.
Yeah.
He's playing music and dancing around and like that feeling is unmatched of anything that I've felt so far.
No, that's so true. Like, seeing the stadium there in Pittsburgh, which is got to be one of the top 5, or everybody says it is, in baseball, and it's just an electric atmosphere, especially when the club's winning. So should be a fun year for you there. Tyler, you're part of a medical staff led by Todd Tomzik, who's seemingly a Pittsburgh legend in himself. What has it been working alongside Todd? Getting to learn from someone with that level of experience, and someone who's just been around the organization for so long.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge win to have that around. It's definitely easy to get sped up in, these types of environments. Especially for a group where, there's no way about it. There's a lot of us that are younger and don't have the experience and the years of time in the big leagues like other staffs would have. So definitely having somebody like that's been around there, so to speak, like been there, done that, is definitely definitely a valuable add to have around and use as a resource when we need.
Sure.
Continue to say, like, I feel very confident that we're going to do everything that we can to be as prepared as possible for whatever comes up. But knowing that there's like that crutch there that can, not crutch is a bad word, but having that like backup, so to speak, support, so to speak, of, hey, this is something that I haven't seen before. I don't really know how to manage this. Like, what would you recommend? What have you done before?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously everyone needs somebody, right? Like, there's got to be a veteran in the room in some way, shape, or form to lean on. I think Todd's one of the best and so cool in every situation, as you know. So I think it's going to be an awesome year for you guys. I did want to talk about the kind of dynamic of being a younger group, which is really cool. I think a lot of people some people may view it as a negative, but I think you take the other side and you're an eager group with Luke moving into his first year as a head athletic trainer, Joel coming over who has tons of experience with the Red Sox. I think it's an awesome opportunity for you 3 to grow together and kind of build something special there, especially I believe 2 of the 3 of you being kind of hometown guys, which is super cool. What's it been like kind of growing with those guys and knowing you have a young group with a ton of energy and kind of eager to kind of not take the league by storm, but really make your mark?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I keep going back to is, getting the experience last year and even seeing half of the season of working alongside Luke, like passion, the energy, that guy just puts 110% into everything that he does.
Yeah.
Like his positive energy and like just passion, like is really infectious, and the players like just fall right into that. Like it's so easy to just get caught up in that, and like he makes you feel warm and welcome and inviting, and like that's definitely the type of environment that we're trying to build in that training room, is just making guys feel like they want to come in. It's not going to be like, viewed as a negative thing, or worse yet, like they're not going to feel like they're not getting what they need, because I know that Luke is going to be leading the charge of making sure that we're listening to what they need and doing everything that we can to provide that. The exact same thing out of Joel, obviously a little bit of a shorter window with him. But everything that I've seen thus far, very passionate, very knowledgeable, has a great skill set, brings a lot of experiences from a lot of different backgrounds from the Red Sox, and, leaning and like combining all of those tools together is going to be very impactful for us. But again, just I think the ultimate thing of what, as each of us sit down and like talk, is the common theme is that we're willing to do whatever it takes to get the players better and keep them on the field. Even if we're disagreeing about which arm care program to run, or, the subtle nuances of what we're doing. at the end of the day, like no matter what, it's just like we have the same common goal of like doing everything that we can to keep these guys out there. And when that's your baseline and like just hunger and eager to prove ourselves, I think that's like setting us up for a very ripe opportunity to just grow together.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that. And Tyler, you mentioned right there, like the what arm care program to run. Maybe it's like choosing what modalities to use, what data to analyze to bring in. There's so much technology and innovation in athletic training. How do you guys, as a young staff, kind of balance innovation and doing new things, new programs, new tools, but also kind of leaning on what guys like Todd have used for forever, seemingly?
Yeah, absolutely. That's always the balancing act that we're all going
Yeah,
to run into. Is it's easy to kind of get caught up in the storm of this latest and greatest. We have to do this and we have to keep up with the Joneses. But like,
sure.
at the end of the day, like taking the time to like sit there and reflect, look at the research, discuss as a group, and get multiple personalities or personnel involved in that conversation.
Hmm.
Realizing that what we do in the athletic training room obviously impacts what the strength conditioning coaches are doing in the weight room and what the nutritionists are doing and all of like that multifactorial like approach to it all. So all of them need to be just as involved in the conversation as we are.
Yeah.
So just combining those inputs, I think, has been really valuable. Got a small glimpse of it last year of how to do that in a good way and how we can
Hmm.
improve upon it for this year and the years to come.
Yeah, and you talked about the whole staff performance wise working together, strength and conditioning, nutrition, athletic trainers, team physicians, everybody involved in keeping players healthy. How impactful for you was it to get experience kind of communicating with those people last year, compared to just coming in day one this year, spring training, starting to meet everybody and get to know everybody? How huge was that, spending some time around all those people last year?
Yeah, that's definitely an invaluable experience, and it's probably something that very few are going to have to be able
Yeah.
to be granted a 3-month window to get a little small taste of the big leagues
Hmm.
before actually stepping into it full time. So that part of it is definitely not lost on me. But like knowing that I'm coming into the year already knowing at least like 80% of the roster, um, whether having met them last year or just knowing them from the minor leagues is definitely huge. Knowing that over the years I've communicated with the doctors over the season, over the years, already have a working relationship with them that got taken to another level as working as the coordinator, and like all of those experiences are all just kind of like compounding on each other and just setting
Yeah.
up that it's not going to be this whole brand new experience. It's just okay, I saw how it was done last year. These are the things that I want to do better personally and do better as a group to make 2026 and 2027 and beyond as successful as possible.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, Tyler, kind of going back to, we talked a lot about your education in school and early years as an athletic trainer. Looking back, knowing the experience that you have now, big league athletic trainer, what advice would you have for someone maybe starting like their first internship through PBATS this spring training or this season, affiliate level internship with a club like you did? What's the advice for someone who just shows up day one and really doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and definitely one that I'm sure there's a billion and one ways to answer.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would point to first is that mentality of if you wait until you're ready, you'll never be ready. That was definitely true of my experience for taking the leap to go down to the DR. I wouldn't have said that I was ready, but
Yeah.
I was willing to be uncomfortable. So I think that definitely permeates through a lot of things. If you kind of wait until the time feels right, like you're going to be stuck in stagnation for way too long. Um,
Yeah.
so just taking those calculated risks, not saying to be crazy or, impulsive, but knowing when there's times where you can take some risks and put yourself in situations that are going to feel weird. Sign up for that course that you feel like might be above your knowledge level.
Yeah.
apply for that job that you don't think you're ready for. Put yourself out there, because at the end of the day, everything's an experience. Even if you don't get that job, going through that interview process is going to be huge. Even if you didn't get everything out of that course that you wanted to, maybe you meet somebody along the way that like is going to be a really valuable connection in the future. And maybe you even glean one or two things that you can apply to your practice. So like, it's never going to feel like it's perfect, but just commit and just do it in full send. Just be a sponge, like just be willing and able to step up and do the things that are going to feel weird.
Yeah, that's great advice. And when in doubt, just act like you're driving in the Dominican Republic and things will work out for you. That's kind of the theme of the day. I know with Tyler, that's great advice. And to wrap up today, we're going to finish with a segment we call Extra Bases. So I want to let people get to know you a bit better outside of baseball. Starting off at first base, do you have a favorite road trip or city that you're looking forward to this year as your first full year in the big leagues?
Yeah, if you had asked me that last year, I think Fenway would have been my pinnacle of what I was hoping to see.
Yeah.
So this, having already seen that last year, I would say San Diego is the next one that's up there. Everybody always talks about how awesome that city is, how awesome the stadium is. So definitely excited to see that one.
Yeah, if you like 68 degrees and sun every day, you're in for a good time there. Well, Tyler, moving on to second base. I know you mentioned Fenway. Piggybacking off that, favorite stadium that you're excited to see in the entire league?
From the history standpoint and, the crowd environment, I'd say Yankee Stadium is definitely going to be up there.
Okay.
Just to see it and experience it and feel that energy of the crowd.
Yeah, definitely going to be a cool one there. Moving on to third base. Outside of being in the athletic training room, being in the stadium, is there any type of experiences like food or something like that you're excited to see as you get to know more of these cities across the league?
Yeah, I definitely love going around and trying to find as many coffee shops as possible and get the best coffee that I can possibly find. So just knowing that I can pick up a bag of beans from wherever I'm going, grab a good cup, and make my way to the stadium and just enjoy those walks is definitely going to be a huge one for me.
Yeah, my guidance there is Jacob Newbern with the Texas Rangers is a huge coffee guy and has usually most of the good tips across the league. So definitely get in touch with him on that. Moving on to the final question for today, home plate. So you spent a little bit of time in the big leagues, not officially as like a major league assistant athletic trainer, like you mentioned. Do you think this year, whether it's taking the line and being introduced opening day at home or something like that, do you think you'll have, or have you had like a welcome to the big leagues moment outside of that initial conversation with the group as you talked about earlier?
No, absolutely. Certainly that Fenway experience is the one that really stood out to me. Was the first time that we had a sold out crowd, experiencing 3 nights straight of sold out crowds and just vibrating energy. They were playoff contender, or they were set up to be in the playoffs, and I got to sign the Green Monster. Just all of those awesome. Really awesome experiences. That trip was just absolutely surreal. So it's not to say that that's been spoiled by any means, but the next one that I'm incredibly looking forward to is just that opening day, that home opener getting announced, and knowing that my family's going to be there. They're already lining up the trip to be out there for that first game. So it's definitely an exciting moment that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, that'll be amazing. Obviously, well-deserved. Well, Tyler, really appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining the show. Thanks for all you do for PBATS and the profession of athletic training, and wish you, Luke, Joel, Todd, all the guys over there, nothing but the best of luck this upcoming season.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. For more information about PBATS and the profession of athletic training, visit pbats.com. See you next time.